Year 5 of serving as Shun Bayu's little-kept lover. My appetite for luxury had been pampered to monstrous heights, to the point where I would demand allowance up to 50 times a day, until the moment I shamelessly asked her for 5 million RMB to buy a flashy sports car just to show off. A stream of strange comments suddenly floated across my vision. Stop asking, stop demanding anymore, you absolute prodigal son. Acting like this. Once the male lead finally shows up, you're totally doomed. I actually know this line. I remember afterward, Fong Su got so overwhelmingly cocky that the female lead personally kicked him straight out of the mansion and even forced him to become a pathetic beggar on the streets. His tragic end later on was just too gruesome to even watch. Fong Su happened to be my exact name. I stared at those floating comments with my heart violently pounding, silently pulling back the hand I was about to use to text her. As a result, exactly 1 hour later, Shun Bayu abruptly gave me a phone call. Wasn't that sports car the exact thing you wanted to buy? Why aren't you texting me to ask for the money anymore? Could someone else have already bought it for you instead? Shun Bayu was rarely the type to string together so many words all at once. I couldn't even tell if I was just imagining things. But right at the end, she almost sounded a little aggrieved. So I panicked and hastily denied it. No way, absolutely not. There's no one else buying any sports car for me. Then why on earth do you suddenly not want it anymore? It's just that all of a sudden, I don't feel like having it. That sports car isn't even anything all that special anyway. It's really nothing much at all. Speaking those final words, every single time my mind drifted back to the Lamborghini at the showroom, a sharp pang of agony clawed at my heart. Before hanging up, Shun Bayu tossed out one final question. Is that really true? Do you genuinely not need it anymore? Yet right then, the floating comments kept relentlessly warning me about the miserable fate of such reckless overspending, leaving my mind completely in a chaotic mess of irritation, making me desperately want to cut the conversation short. For real, seriously, I've got stuff to do. I'm hanging up now. After dropping the call, I stood there dumbfounded, staring blankly at my phone. Shun Bayu. Spoiling me rotten was a well-known fact across the entire capital. She was a woman of few words, yet she had never once rejected a single demand of mine, especially when it came to transferring money. In the very beginning, I only dared to ask her for pocket money once a month, but now I could get whatever amount I wanted on a whim. Just this morning I spotted a dazzling 200,000 renminbi diamond watch, and the absolute second I shot her text, she would wire the funds over instantly. An hour later, after I saw a famous artist's painting posted on my social feed, and casually gushed about it to Bayu. This artist style is insane. Let me buy one for you. There's no need for that. I've already told my secretary to pre-order 20 of them. Keep this extra cash and use it to buy whatever other art you like. By noon, I stumbled across a luxury resort advertisement, and spotting a private island featured on it, I texted Bayu, this island looks like the ultimate spot for a vacation getaway. What do you think, Shun Bayu? A short while later, she directly forwarded the official deeds of island ownership straight to me, followed by another wire transfer of 500,000 renminbi. Let's head over there this weekend. Take this money and go buy whatever vacation gear and supplies you fancy. Just like that. In a single day, I could easily burn through several million yuan of Shun Bayu's money. And occasionally, if she was busy with work and didn't wire the funds over fast enough, I would even interrogate her, demanding to know if she didn't care about me anymore. Every single time, Shun Bayu would double my pocket money to make up for it. Back then, I felt like this was completely natural and justified. After all, I was her kept lover. And isn't that just how lovers are supposed to act? As long as Shun Bayu kept coughing up the cash, that was all that mattered. Whereas I had to stress over so many difficult decisions, right up until that exact moment. Even while staring at those strange comments, I still didn't think there was anything wrong with my behavior. After all, what's wrong with just enjoying spending a bit of money? How could I possibly have done anything wrong? Yet just as I was standing there half believing, half doubting those floating comments, the very next second, that exact sports car was snatched up by the male lead. As expected, he's on a totally different level from mere supporting characters. He didn't even need to open his mouth, yet the female lead voluntarily bought it for him. Remember, Fong Su just kept getting greedier and more insatiable from then on. And on top of that, Because he foolishly tried to compete with the male lead, he ended up meeting such a miserable fate. Fong Su, for the love of God, do not look out that window right now. The two of them are crashing. Comes this early. Your ruined doom is arriving sooner than later. They'll eat my foot, stirring up a fierce surge of rebellion. I instantly whipped my head around to gaze out the window. The moment I took a single glance, I immediately spotted that exact Lamborghini parked right downstairs outside the mansion. A man stepped down from the vehicle, casually tossing his arm back to slam the car door shut before striking a pose while adjusting his sunglasses. Laying eyes on this scene, my heart suddenly sank into utter despair. Turns out a woman's sweet words are just complete lies meant to fool anyone. Back then, Shun Baiyu had sworn solemn, ironclad oaths, vowing that ever since I got together with her, anything I fancied would belong to me. Just because I didn't want to buy that sports car right then, didn't mean I wouldn't ever buy it in the future. How long has it even been? Yet she already handed the car I had my eyes on to someone else instead? Who knows how she's going to treat me down the road? The comments were right. I had to do something fast. At the very least, I couldn't end up abandoned by Shun Baiyu, left completely broke, and meeting a tragic end in some foreign land. Reflecting on this, I clenched my teeth tightly, making a fierce, resolute decision. I bolted to the bank, taking the pitiful savings I had left, and locking them away in a fixed deposit, then immediately froze the black card that Shun Baiyu had handed me. Finishing up all these tasks, I sprinted back home and began packing away my rarely used belongings. Right into the shadows of night descended, and Shun Baiyu returned. With a single sweep of her eyes, she caught me buried deep inside a massive pile of clothes. A moment later, carrying a stiff expression on her face, she called out, "Fong Su, what on earth are you doing right now?" I poked my head out from the heap of garments, subconsciously tossing out a perfunctory reply. "It's nothing, just tidying up my stuff a little bit. You don't need to mind me at all. Just go take care of your own work." The moment those words dropped, Shun Baiyu's expression instantly froze into a glacial chill, though I remained completely oblivious, focusing entirely on figuring out which clothes I didn't want to wear anymore, so I could haul them off to sell, until right behind me, the sound of her deliberately clearing her throat echoed out, as she wrapped her arms tightly around my waist, before thrusting a catalog right in front of my face. "Fong Su, this is the new auction catalog that the other side just sent over. Take a look and see if there's anything here you'd like to grab." Striking my eyes instantly was none other than a one-of-a-kind Patek Philippe Grand Complication timepiece. What do you think of this model? Do you like it? If this were back in the past, I would have undoubtedly nodded frantically without hesitation. But now, recalling those haunting voices from this morning, it genuinely left me feeling a bit terrified, wondering if Shun Baiyu was pulling this out, just to test my loyalty or probe my intentions. Right then, seeing that I showed zero reaction, Shun Baiyu gently poked my cheek. "If you want it, I'll tell my secretary to go." "No need. Absolutely not. Didn't I already get a fully iced-out diamond watch just last time?" I forced out a stiff smile and shook my head repeatedly. Noticing this, she furrowed her brow, then flipped over to the very next page, which featured an antique porcelain tea set, delicately engraved on the inside with my exact zodiac sign. "Well, what about this set? Are you going to take this one?" "There's no need for that either. I already have a cup to drink water with, so there's no point in buying any more." "So you don't need this item either?" "Nope, don't need it. I'll pass on that." Shun Baiyu frowned deeply as she continuously flipped through a full 10 pages. I barely dared to open my eyes to look, gritting my teeth to endure it, completely oblivious to how increasingly grim her expression was becoming, until she finally turned to the very last page. Displayed there was a pair of Bulgari blue diamond rings. My eyes instantly popped wide open, my first instinctive thought being that Shun Baiyu and I could each wear one of them. Yet before I could even formulate an excuse to reject it, my mouth betrayed me and spoke up first. "This one looks gorgeous. I want to take this pair." But halfway through speaking, it finally dawned on me what I had just said. I felt like my life was completely over, so I turned my head to cautiously observe her expression. Just as I was about to say, I didn't actually have to take it, I caught the corners of her lips curling up in delight. "All right, I'll have the secretary go by it right away." I let out a silent sigh of relief. Looks like after scoring this one last purchase, Shinbayu would still completely indulge and spoil me. Yet that very night, her behavior felt somewhat bizarre. Right inside the bathroom, she gripped my waist tightly, then desperately buried her face right against my chest. Moreover, she was usually a woman of few words, yet she kept repeatedly asking me whether I genuinely liked her. I was about to say I did, but a sudden flash appeared in my mind, the image of that so-called male lead, causing me to swallow my words back down, but shifting my thoughts slightly, reflecting on the fact that I was Shun Bayu's kept little lover. I nodded frantically once more. I like you, of course I do. Yet she clearly didn't believe it. She stared deeply at me for a long while, before finally pressing a kiss upon my eyes. Go to sleep. The moment those words fell, she pulled me into a suffocating embrace. Waking up the next morning, Shinbayu sat downstairs sipping coffee, and the instant she spotted me, she smiled and beckoned with her hand. The sunny-side-up eggs were just freshly fried. Give it a taste. Unlike other wealthy elites, Shinbayu genuinely loved stepping into the kitchen, enjoying cooking all sorts of delicious meals to feed me. After being hand-fed until I was completely full, I flattered her with a quick kiss as a reward. Right after that, Shinbayu shoved something right into my hand. I lowered my gaze to look, discovering it was a brand new black card. If this were back in the past, I would have joyfully beamed and rubbed my face against hers in excitement. Yet this time, I stood completely frozen, because the floating comments had once again flooded the screen. Unbelievable. Last time that supporting character only took a single item. This time he's definitely going to reveal his true colors. Hee. Using a trick like this to test someone's loyalty. How could anyone possibly resist that? That's a black card right there. Oh my god, the female lead is way too generous. Noticing I showed zero reaction, Shinbayu waved her hand right in front of my eyes. I noticed you froze the previous card I gave you. Was it because you felt the credit limit wasn't enough? The spending limit on this new card is identical to my own, so you can spend however much you want. I took a deep, steady breath, stubbornly pushing the card back in her palm. No need for that. The money I have right now is more than enough. At the same time, I thought to myself, even if this doesn't move Sean, Bayu to tears, at the very least, it at least shouldn't get me kicked out on the street, right? As a result, I lifted my gaze to look at her, only to notice her entire body stiffening unusually. Falling silent for a long, heavy moment, she stared right into my eyes and muttered to herself. Shin Corporation subsidiaries are scattered across the entire globe, totaling around 30 different companies, with total assets sitting at roughly 700 billion, while my personal liquid cash flow even surpasses 10 billion US dollars, and I own well over 100 real estate properties. Seeing my puzzled expression as she trailed off midway, she had no choice but to let out a sigh and break it down for me. What I'm trying to say is, I have more than enough money for you to spend however you please. So why on earth are you refusing to take it? Yet I had no idea how to even respond to that. Could I possibly tell her it was because the floating comments warned me that she wouldn't be able to stand me anymore and would eventually kick me out of the house? Choking for half a day, I had no choice but to grit my teeth and speak up. There's no obligation to explain myself. Anyway, from now on I won't act like before and burn through so much of your money anymore. At this, Shunbayu didn't utter a single word, and it wasn't until she stood up that I clearly noticed her deathly pale complexion, along with her deeply bloodshot eyes. Shunbayu? I just felt like there was no need for this anymore. Where the money is, that's where love is supposed to be. If I stop spending your money, does that mean I don't love you anymore? Finishing those words, and before I could even react, with a loud slam of the door, Shinbayu cut off completely. The floating comments erupted right along with it. Is this seriously the world of the obscenely wealthy? I wish someone would ask me a question like that too. The supporting character refuses to spend money, yet the female lead gets upset. Wait a minute, isn't the original plot supposed to go completely differently? Shinbayu didn't even return home by nightfall. Those words she uttered during the day were extremely bizarre, even sparking a sliver of expectation in me regarding how the plot might unfold later on, but the sheer existence of the male lead and the floating comments kept relentlessly reminding me that I simply didn't dare to gamble on it. Therefore, everything pertaining to Shinbayu was temporarily tossed to the back of my mind. Saving and accumulating wealth came above all else. For the entire day, I focused heavily on collecting. Myself at home waiting for packages to arrive until the doorbell rang and Secretary Lee pushed the door open to step inside. Afterward, he pulled out the pair of Bulgari blue diamond rings that had just been successfully won at auction and handed them over to me. Mr. Fong, if your allowance isn't enough, you can always let me know. President Shun has already given instructions. It's more than enough, really. Plus, this item is way too much. It's just right for me to pack away. I've completely reflected on my past behavior and mended my ways. Baiyu works so incredibly hard out there. And back then it was simply my fault for spending without any restraint. Not at all, Mr. Fong. In reality, whatever you spend amounts to next to nothing. Lately, President Shun has been way too swamped with work and hasn't had the time to properly accompany you. So it's only natural for you to spend a bit more to treat yourself. If there are any other diamonds you want to buy, just tell me directly. You can buy literally anything you want. In the past, whenever Secretary Lee brought various luxury goods over to me, his gaze would always inadvertently betray a look of sheer disdain, like staring at a reckless moth burning through cash. His totally uncharacteristic attitude today left me utterly dumbfounded. Nope, I don't have anything I want to buy. Hearing that, Secretary Lee's expression instantly flooded with sheer despair. As he turned around to walk away, just an hour prior, President Shun had personally assigned him a special mission, namely, to force me to spend money, promising to reward him with a 20% commission for every dollar spent. At that exact moment, he felt like he was facing absolute divine retribution. After all, he had previously witnessed my legendary money-burning capabilities firsthand. Only now did he finally realize that under capitalism, there's truly no such thing as a free lunch. Right as he stepped out of the elevator, Shun Baiyu's call came through. Why on earth is he refusing to spend my money? Perhaps he's grown tired of it day in and day out, so he wants to change his spending habits? He even went and sold off the luxury items I gifted him earlier. That's probably because he believes that if the old doesn't go, the new won't come. No way right now. He won't even let me buy him any gifts or accept anything from me anymore. When a man refuses to even touch a single cent of your money, does he still hold any space for you in his heart? Throughout the entire following week, Shun Baiyu remained buried under a mountain of corporate work, while I obediently behaved myself and refrained from disturbing her, until our next encounter, which took place at a high-end business banquet a week later. She hooked her arm through mine as we stepped into the grand banquet hall, informing me that tonight she wanted to introduce her stepbrother, Anlan, to me. Ever since Mother Shin passed away years ago and Father Shin remarried, he had become the son of Shun Baiyu's stepfather. Yet for the life of me, I never would have imagined that Anlan was precisely that so-called male lead, to the point where the instant Shun Baiyu finished introducing him, I instinctively blurted out, "Holy shit, what a twisted forbidden dynamic. What did you just say?" I didn't catch that clearly. I quickly cover my mouth and wave my hands frantically, subconsciously glancing back toward the male lead standing right before me. Such overwhelming aura and dashing looks. He was practically evenly matched with me, 10 for 10. But who could argue with the fact that he was the designated male lead? So I silently took 2 steps backward. Yet before I could even take a third, my arm was suddenly grabbed by someone. "Where on earth do you think you're going?" "I'm just heading to the restroom for a second." Shun Baiyu reluctantly loosened her grip and let me go. Yet after I slipped out to the washroom, instead of returning back to her side, I scurried over to the dining tables and started stuffing my face with food to fill up my rumbling stomach. As a result, before I had even finished half of it, Luo Qingyue gracefully drifted over to my side. She was the esteemed young heiress of the Luo Corporation, and when we first met, she declared that she loved making friends with gorgeous guys like me. I genuinely felt that this girl had incredible taste, and just like that, she ended up becoming one of my very few friends. Within this cutthroat upper-crust circle, your ultimate love rival has arrived, you know? So why on earth are you hiding over here, just stuffing your face? I knew the person she was talking about was Anlan. Do you really think I can compete with him? I'm just praying I won't get kicked out onto the streets, that's all. Surely Shun Baiyu wouldn't go that far, right? It's hard to say for sure. A woman's heart is as unfathomable as a needle at the bottom of the sea. Right now, my only worry is figuring out how to avoid starving on the streets. After I get unceremoniously dumped and tossed out. Tell me, what do you think I should do to secure my future? Let me tell you, lately I've already sold off quite a bit of my luxury stuff, and am desperately working hard to save money. Recently, I even signed up for a few professional skill courses. Should I open up a small business? You should totally go for it. With a handsome face like yours, I told you before, opening a styling salon would easily rake in a massive fortune, right? You'd practically be a walking billboard poster. Trust me when I tell you, that style is totally trending right now. But the thing is, I've literally never run a business in my entire life. Luo Qingyue wore an expression of supreme confidence, hooking her pinky finger toward me with a smirk. What's there to stress about? Don't forget my family runs in the entertainment industry, so just leave it to me and let me help you out. How could I possibly stand by and watch my good pal fall into a life of wandering the streets? There are so many other women out there. If one turns out to be heartless, we can just swap for someone else. A woman that cold-hearted isn't worth keeping around anyway. Her loyal, righteous words actually moved me a little bit. Yet that touching moment didn't even last past 2 seconds, before a heavy shadow cast itself right over my eyes. Shen Baiyu had arrived. Her complexion wasn't looking any better than before. In fact, it looked even worse. The instant I laid eyes on her, a sudden surge of resentment flared up deep inside my chest. Did someone piss her off or what? She already has the male lead. So why isn't she satisfied yet? She extended her hand straight toward me. It's time to head home. Fang Su. Before I could even manage to reply, another figure suddenly popped out right beside us. He threw his arm casually around my shoulders, smiling playfully as he looked at Shen Baiyu. Sis, why are you in such a rush to leave? I haven't even had a proper chance to chat with Fang Su yet. It was in Lan. This realization gave me a violent jolt of shock, leaving me frozen dead in my tracks. Why on earth are we suddenly jumping straight into the clash between the male lead and the supporting character already? This is terrifying. I haven't even mentally prepared myself for this at all. I want out. And Lan leaned in close to me with burning enthusiasm, continuing with a grin. I've long heard rumors that my dear sister kept a very special someone, hidden away tightly, refusing to let anyone catch even a glimpse of him. Now I finally get to witness the real person in the flesh. His overly forward, aggressive tone gave me instant goosebumps, all over my entire body. None of the floating comments had ever warned me that this plot counterattack would play out quite like this. My brain felt like it had completely shut down. Then I suddenly felt him grabbing hold of my hand. Oh, our aesthetic tastes are actually quite similar. That pair of rings right there, I even spotted them at the auction house last time. As for all the words that followed after, I couldn't register a single syllable anymore, only managing to catch a few stray keywords like similar aesthetics and rings. He was blatantly dropping hints. He was secretly hinting. At what exactly? Those passing comments flashed vividly across my mind. I can tolerate the fact that you refuse to spend my money. But Fang Su, why on earth could you so easily take the luxury items I gifted you and hand them over to someone else's gifts? Do you really hate me that much? Hearing this originally, I had so many things I wanted to pour out and explain. It was all because of Shen Baiyu that I was left gasping for breath, completely unable to utter a single word anymore. Late into the dead of night, just as I was slipping into sleep, I caught the sound of a deeply helpless sigh. Yet I don't need you to be sensible or mature. I just want you to always be happy, Fang Su. Ah, this line is way too familiar. Back when I was a kid, my parents always used to tell me the exact same thing. Our little Fang Su is so well-behaved. You can do whatever you want, as long as you're happy. Our family wasn't particularly well off, yet they always pampered and catered to my every single whim. They told me I didn't need to stress over studying or working hard. As long as I was happy, that was all that mattered. I was immensely smug, feeling that my parents were truly different from other people's parents, right up until my 18th birthday, when they dragged some creepy guy named Chen back home. He had a hideous appearance, yet he was stinking rich. My family all told me I should treat him nicely. I suffered from a severe case of looks obsession, but I forced myself to endure it. During dinner, the guy squeezed in right next to me, keeping a creepy, smirking grin glued to his face as he stared at me unblinkingly. Then he started creeping closer, groping and pawing at me. I instinctively retreated step by step by step, until there was nowhere left for me to retreat to. Turning my head, I saw my parents beaming with delight as they looked at me. "Oh, Fong Su, this distinguished benefactor has bestowed such favor upon you. From now on, you should follow him." The exact moment those words registered in my ears, I felt as though the food I had just swallowed down had instantly turned into shredding blades. I completely forgot how I managed to escape that place, only remembering that I wandered the streets aimlessly for a very long time, until my phone suddenly rang. It started with a furious roar from my old man. "Think you're all grown up now, with full wings, huh? Do you have any idea how much money the family poured into raising you? Every single bite of food, every piece of clothing, every supply you picked out wasn't the absolute best money could buy for you? Can't you just act sensible and mature for once? Now, you won't even do this one little favor for the family. All our efforts raising you have truly gone down the drain. You ungrateful brat, raising a viper in our own house, followed right after by my mother's crying wails. Don't blame your father. The family genuinely can't hold on much longer. In reality, we just want what's best for you. President Chun has money and knows how to pamper people. So if you follow him, won't your life be 100 times better than staying at home? Oh, Fong Su, my child, calm your mind and think it over carefully. Has our family ever treated you unfairly? President Chun was someone we carefully handpicked for you. Mom isn't forcing you. But if you refuse to come back, then just consider us as having never given birth to a son like you." Hearing those words spill from them left me completely speechless, until I finally forced myself to rationalize it and drag my heavy feet toward our front doorstep. Yet the voices echoing from inside the door were drastically different from the tone they used on the phone. "President Chun, you truly have an incredible eye for talent. The son of our household is practically famous all across this neighborhood. He couldn't even be bothered to study his books properly. He's genuinely just that innocent and naive." I froze dead in my tracks right where I stood, only to hear my mother chiming in with a loud, laughing chuckle. "Boss Chun, you can rest easy and set your mind at rest. That little brat will definitely come crawling back sooner or later. We've always spoiled him rotten and pandered to his every whim, pouring countless amounts of money into him. He's already hopelessly addicted to a lavish, wasteful lifestyle. So sooner or later he'll come to his senses. In a few days, he'll obediently drag his face back here on his own. Then what about the business collaboration amount we previously agreed upon? Do you think we could bump those figures up just a little bit more?" At that exact, crushing moment, it finally dawned on me. I was nothing more than a piece of merchandise put on display, being peddled off to a customer. My head buzzed with a deafening ring, leaving me with only one single, desperate thought: to flee from this place as fast as humanly possible, running as far away as my legs could carry me. Sprinting wildly down the stairs, I whipped my head back to look. The lights inside the living room were still blazing brightly, yet I knew deep down that I no longer had a home to return to. I fled into hiding in a distant place, and when my parents couldn't manage to track me down, they bombarded my phone with angry calls, screaming and cursing that I was trying to drive them to an early grave. Faced with such venomous words, I completely snapped and screamed right back at them. Then I'd rather just die. After managing to escape, I couldn't secure a decent, legitimate job, and ultimately had to rely on my looks to work as a freelance model, even though I pulled in a decent amount of cash. The problem was that I burned through money like water, at my absolute lowest and most desperate point. My manager dragged me to a lavish cocktail party to pitch a high-paying job. The moment I arrived, I realized to my horror that this place wasn't a respectable gathering at all. It felt no different from a replaying nightmare. Panicking and terrified, I bolted for the exit and escaped for the second time. In my blind panic, unable to find my way out, I accidentally crashed headfirst right into Shun Baiyu. At first glance, she was breathtakingly gorgeous. At second glance, a thought flashed through my mind. If I'm forced to attach myself to someone anyway, then I'd rather follow a woman like this. So I looked straight at her and asked, "Ma'am, are you currently single?" After confirming that she was indeed single, I pressed on. "Then, could I come along with you?" She looked genuinely amused by my audacity, letting out a soft chuckle as she looked at me. Do you want to stay by my side? Hearing her reply, I nodded frantically like my life depended on it. And right after, I heard her whisper, deal. Just like that, I became Shun Baiyu's kept lover. She cherished and spoiled me to no end, so endlessly pampered, that it made me completely forget how certain things always come, with a hidden price tag attached. It was precisely the sudden appearance of those floating comments that served as a brutal wake-up call, pushing me to make drastic changes. Yet Shun Baiyu had told me, I don't need you to be sensible or mature. All I want is for you to be happy. Waking up the next morning, Shun Baiyu had already left early for the company. After that, even though she occasionally returned home, we somehow kept missing each other and I couldn't cross paths with her. As for me, I threw myself entirely into the hustle of opening my own storefront. Though this whole journey was far from smooth sailing, not going smoothly at all, on one particular occasion, my capital supply chain was dangerously close to snapping completely, yet right at that critical moment, a mysterious, anonymous figure suddenly poured several million yuan into my business. And even on the promotional, marketing front, they invested a massive fortune into my store. Through the cascade of floating comments, I finally learned that this mysterious benefactor was none other than Shun Baiyu, leaving me feeling utterly bewildered and overwhelmed. According to the original plotline, shouldn't she be completely sick and tired of my reckless, wasteful spending? Yet regarding this specific matter, the floating comments were entirely unable to offer any sort of satisfying, logical explanation. As I sat down to seriously retrace everything, it suddenly dawned on me. Shun Baiyu had handed me countless fortunes over time, yet she had never once restricted what I used the money for. No matter what crazy endeavor I pursued, she would always just smile gently and tell me, our little Fong Su is simply amazing. Could a Shun Baiyu like that truly turn out like what the floating comments claimed, hating me for spending too much because of the male lead, only to ruthlessly toss me out on the streets? Abruptly, my heartbeat started racing with a violent frenzy. I wanted to go find Shun Baiyu, bringing nothing else along with me. Simply wanting to have an honest, heart-to-heart talk with her once and for all. By the time these thoughts settled, it was already noon, so I ordered a lunchbox meal, intending to personally deliver it over to Shun Baiyu. I had visited the Shun Corporation headquarters before and wanted to give Shun Baiyu a delightful surprise. I didn't bother having the front desk announce me ahead of time. Just like that, I breezed all the way up without encountering a single obstacle, arriving right outside the CEO's executive office. Yet to my utter shock, the moment I reached the door, I overheard a painfully familiar voice. It was Lon. His tone carried a clear, mocking chuckle. Sis, you really spoil Fong Su to death, pouring an absurd amount of money into him, don't you? Funding his storefront with $8 million, backing his online business ventures with $5 million, and dropping another $3 million on offline advertisements. Hearing those exact words, it finally clicked to my mind. These jaw-dropping numbers were precisely the funds Shun Baiyu had recently invested to set up my shop. I froze dead in my tracks, completely paralyzed and unable to move. And right on cue, the floating comments flashed across my eyes once again. And once again, the floating comments flashed across my eyes. Why on earth did I have to stumble upon this exact conversation by sheer coincidence? There's zero doubt left now. The female lead has finally noticed the problem. Things are about to take a massive, drastic turn. Without him, I'd definitely go out of my way to pamper and soothe the male lead. That poor boyfriend is about to face a catastrophic disaster. Logically speaking, this was the exact moment I should have turned around and left. Yet my legs felt heavy as lead, completely paralyzed and unable to lift a single step, right up until her cold, indifferent voice drifted over. Yeah, it's true that he spent a little bit too much money. Hearing those exact words, I felt as though the entire world was spinning out of control. Panic-stricken, I turned on my heel and bolted away from my life. I really am just too utterly foolish, having to experience the exact same tragic story twice, before finally beating some sense into my thick skull. Even though the floating comments were harsh and painful to hear, if I waited around only to end up humiliated and kicked out on the street, I'd rather pack up my things and bail out on my own terms first. When I fled from home the very first time, my biggest regret was not being able to take anything with me. This time, I was going to strip the place clean to get my capital back. With that thought racing through my mind, I sprinted back home in a frenzy, completely ransacking and sweeping through the spacious luxury apartment. After all these years of playing along, if I hadn't earned any credit, I had at least put in hard labor. Demanding a little bit of compensation shouldn't be too excessive, right? But there was so much loot piled up everywhere that I actually had to call a moving truck just to haul it all away. The new apartment was a place I had scouted out in advance, located right next to my storefront, originally intended simply for convenience with my business. Yet now it had suddenly transformed into a hideout for my desperate escape. When Shun Baiyu finally wrapped up her work and left the company, Secretary Li stood anxiously by the side, shaking with unease, because the front desk receptionist had just reported that Fong Su had dropped by earlier to deliver lunchboxes. Yet, judging by the dark, terrifying expression on his boss's face, it was glaringly obvious that she hadn't gotten to eat a single bite. Without giving him a chance to overthink or stall for time, Shun Baiyu abruptly spoke up. What on earth happened? Secretary Li hurriedly laid out all his frantic guesses and suspicions. Her complexion morphed and darkened in an instant, and after several consecutive phone calls went entirely unanswered, Shun Baiyu ruthlessly shoved the driver aside and hijacked the driver's seat, accelerating with reckless, breakneck speed like a professional racer. It wasn't until they burst inside the apartment that Secretary Li finally realized he had still underestimated the situation by a mile. He had truly never witnessed an apartment cleaned out so thoroughly in his entire life. Furthermore, he couldn't help but notice the subtle trembling in his boss's hands. After a long, agonizing silence, Shun Baiyu abruptly spun around to face him, her eyes bloodshot and brimming with tears. Was that amount of money even enough for him to spend? Should I transfer a bit more cash over to Fong Su? But right now, he doesn't like me anymore, and he doesn't even want to spend a single penny of my money. He is him, and money is money. He really should have learned to keep those two things separate. He loves money so much, and as long as he gets to spend it, he feels incredibly happy. I just want to make him happy. Pausing for a moment, Shun Baiyu suddenly issued a cold command. Secretary Li, you need to figure out a way to send money over to him. Just make sure he never finds out it came from me. As for the specific method, come up with it yourself, and report back to me later. Secretary Li was utterly baffled, left completely speechless by her logic, and could only obediently follow her bizarre orders. The new apartment was nestled within an old historic district, offering a leisurely lifestyle packed with convenient amenities. During my free time, when there was nothing to do, I'd often listen to the local aunties gossiping downstairs. This time, another elderly neighbor came over to nag me, with the same old broken record. Oh, little Fong, just look at yourself. With such a handsome and dashing appearance, why are you still flying solo? All by yourself? I just happen to know a few pretty decent matches around here. Ever since I ran away into hiding, Shun Baiyu hadn't tried to contact me once. It felt as though she had completely vanished and evaporated from my world. To say it didn't hurt would be an absolute lie. After all, we had spent all those years together, and I still held a lingering shred of genuine affection for her. During the first few days after moving into this place, I kept having recurring nightmares about Shun Baiyu. In those dreams, she seemed to transform into a completely different person. Fong Su, why is it that the moment in lawn shows up you refuse to be obedient and sensible anymore? Huh? I woke up jolting in sheer terror, wanted to pull up the floating comments to soothe my nerves a little. Yet ever since I had relocated here, those commentary boxes had gradually faded away completely. I figured it was because I had completely strayed outside the plot's storyline of the original webtoon, and logically speaking, I should have been thrilled about it. Yet deep down in my chest, there was only a hollow, echoing emptiness. So I could only comfort myself by thinking about all the valuable loot I had managed to pack away. The fact that Shun Baiyu hadn't come hunting for me meant I had totally struck gold. Thinking up to this point, I let out a soft huff and muttered a couple of curses before turning on my heel to head toward the local supermarket. One thing worth mentioning was that ever since I left, my luck had suddenly skyrocketed to insane heights, as if the heavens themselves were scrambling to shower cash directly down upon me. As a result, my standard of living after moving How didn't drop by a single bit. In fact, it shot straight up. Not to mention, nowadays I could just buy random daily groceries and enter. A lucky draw raffle at the supermarket, only to end up winning the grand prize, an exclusive, luxurious 5-day ski resort. Vacation getaway in Switzerland. The staff members smiled brightly as they congratulated me. Mr. Fong, you are seriously, unbelievably lucky. I hear right now is absolute peak season for traveling and touring Switzerland. Plus, for this 5-day trip, anyone born during this current month gets a special VIP perk too. Your flight ticket can be upgraded straight to first class for free. Hearing those words, it suddenly hit me like a bolt from the blue, reminding me that my birthday was fast approaching. Ever since I ran away from my toxic household, I hadn't bothered celebrating that day ever again. Even though I didn't care much for birthdays anymore, scoring a massive freebie like this wasn't half bad. So without a single care in the world, I happily accepted this unexpected, falling from the sky journey. Arriving in Switzerland, my thoughts inevitably drifted back to Shan Baiyu, because it was literally Shan Baiyu who had first taught me how to ski. She was an exceptionally patient and brilliant instructor, guiding me step by step with her own hands, and shielding me so I'd never take a hard fall, no matter how clumsy I got. Yet as my stray thoughts snapped back to reality, I immediately spat out a self-deprecating scoff. Oh hot Fan Su, are you seriously going to sit around pining over Shan Baiyu all day long? Mocking myself, I lifted my head up, only to realize the snowy landscape ahead looked completely unfamiliar. Without me even realizing it, I had drifted completely off course and strayed far away from the trail. I'm mentally resolved to change directions right away, preparing to ski back toward the main trail. Yet, right at that exact instant, I suddenly heard a massive, deafening rumble echoing out. The words avalanche flashed through my mind, and before I could even process the warning or react, the next second I was violently swept up and swallowed by a raging wall of snow. At that terrifying moment, only one single thought remained in my head. I am totally finished for. I worked so damn hard to escape being abandoned and suffering a tragic fate out on the streets, only to end up losing my life to an avalanche like this. I refused to accept this ending, so I mustered every ounce of remaining strength in my body, screaming and clawing frantically for what felt like an eternity, until I finally began experiencing hallucinations. I actually thought I heard someone calling out my name, but I couldn't even scream anymore. Yet miraculously, that voice didn't give up on me at all, growing closer and closer by the second. Then I was yanked forcefully out of the thick, freezing layers of ice and snow. As my vision cleared, I saw her face clearly. It was Shan Baiyu. She cried out, "Don't fall asleep. You cannot close your eyes," supporting my dead weight, half carrying and half dragging me. She hauled me upward against the slope. After hiking a short distance, I couldn't help myself and opened my mouth to ask her, "Why on earth are you in such a miserable state, Shan Baiyu?" I'm dead serious. I have truly never seen Shan Baiyu look this disheveled and battered in my entire life. She softly murmured a quiet reply, and I could distinctly feel that her footsteps were growing increasingly sluggish and agonizingly heavy. "Tell me, Fong Su, do you think we won't be able to make it back alive? Who could have ever guessed that a female lead like me would end up dying here alongside a male supporting character?" Risking my very life, I forced myself to crack a joke, but she suddenly halted in her tracks, her gaze locking directly with mine. "I'm so sorry. Why on earth are you apologizing to me?" She didn't say another word, only speaking up after a long while with a hoarse, broken voice. "You're gonna be fine. Trust me, Fong Su. I don't know why you've been saying such strange things lately." Yet every single word from Shan Baiyu's breath, though growing more and more fragmented, hit my eardrums with crystal clear precision. "In my entire world, you were never just some background extra or stepping stone. I already told you that you're such a fool. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault." What on earth is she even apologizing to me for? She didn't answer me, but instead took 2 shaky, unsteady steps forward. I raised my hand to stroke her cheek, only to realize that Shan Baiyu's condition right now was even worse than mine. Shan Baiyu should never have come here. Because of me, she was about to Throw her own precious life away, too. She shouldn't have come. How could she possibly just collapse and fall like this? Dear heavens, if anyone has to go, let me perish alone instead. I'm begging you. Please let Shinbayu live. I prayed frantically over and over again, even trying to wriggle my body down from Shinbayu's back. Yet she still gripped my hands tightly and refused to let go. Right at the moment when I was about to plunge over the edge of absolute despair, the distant sound of a rescue team suddenly echoed through the air. I clutched fiercely at her jacket, screaming with all my remaining might. Shinbayu, we're saved. You're not allowed to close your eyes. Do you hear me clearly? Fortunately, both of us were successfully rescued and brought to safety. After surviving that terrifying ordeal, Secretary Lee pulled me aside and told me. Shinbayu completely ignored everyone's desperate objections and warnings, charging into the disaster zone all by herself to search for you every single inch of the way. The amount of time she stubbornly clung on and held out surpassed even the professional rescue workers, and her search radius went deeper than anyone else's. After she finally found you, she relied entirely on her own sheer willpower to shield and sustain you until the rescue team arrived. Secretary Lee looked at me and let out a long sigh. My boss might act a little crazy and overbearing at times, but Mr. Fong, she truly carved out a place for you deep inside her heart. Even long after you packed up and walked away, I stood there in a daze for a moment, before instinctively blurting out a single name. Unlon? Hearing my question, Secretary Lee suddenly snapped back to reality, clearing his throat a few times. Mr. Fong. That day, Mr. was the one who took the initiative to show up at her doorstep, seeking some corporate investments. He had just returned from abroad and wanted to establish a firm footing. And since the boss was technically his adoptive older sister on paper, she couldn't easily find a polite excuse to reject him. She had simply chucked a corporate black card straight at him beforehand, only for him to take that exact card and immediately swipe it to buy a luxury sports car. Seeing that I was still standing there dazed and unresponsive, Secretary Lee lowered his voice and leaked a juicy piece of explosive gossip. Furthermore, Mr. Fong, didn't you know about this? Mr. N actually shares the exact same sexual orientation preferences as our boss. Hearing this, my jaw literally dropped wide open, and right at that moment, a knock echoed from outside the hospital room door. Following that, Unlon sauntered leisurely inside. Fong Su, I'm here to visit you. He cradled a bouquet of flowers as he sauntered right up to my hospital bed. Knowing the truth about his actual orientation now, I suddenly had no idea how to face him or what to say. Unlon deliberately leaned in close, right beside my ear, flashing a sly, smug smile. If my dear sister doesn't make it, would you ever consider giving me a shot instead? The moment he finished speaking, I was so utterly spooked that I couldn't even form a coherent sentence. I actually thought you liked her, and Lan, turning around, he rolled his eyes in utter disdain. Who on earth has the time to like a total workaholic? On top of that, she's so ridiculously stingy and cheap. Whenever I went looking for her to squeeze some pocket money out, I always had to beg in person at her doorstep. Just as he finished speaking, he leaned in a little closer once more, when suddenly a loud crash echoed from the doorway. Shinbayu appeared, walking with a slight limp as she gripped the doorframe, breathing heavily and glaring daggers at him. I'm not dead yet. Get your ass away from him right now. After Unlon scurried away, I looked at her and asked, why on earth did you come to save me? I honestly thought I was just some casual, temporary fling to you. Before I could even finish my sentence, my lips were pinched, firmly shut by her hand as Shinbayu let out an exasperated, angry laugh. So you really thought of me that way this entire time? Have you ever seen anyone treat a casual fling to that much? Zidikulo wow, Fang Su. Do you even know what the words being together actually mean to me? Shinbayu, with a deeply aggrieved expression plastered across her face, stared straight into my eyes. I have always viewed you as my true boyfriend. There is absolutely nothing between Unlon and me whatsoever. He is nothing more than a family member to me. I know that saying anything right now is completely useless, since you don't even love me anymore, and you wouldn't even accept or use my money anymore. Hearing those words, I instinctively grabbed hold of the hem of her shirt, stopping her and preventing her from saying anything more. I never stopped liking you. It's just that Shun Bayu's eyes suddenly lit up brilliantly. It's just what? I felt a sudden pang of guilt, my voice growing softer and more timid by the second, as I couldn't help but lower my head in embarrassment. It's just that I was terrified that if I spent too much, it would infuriate you. Plus, I genuinely wanted to. Be a good, obedient boy for once. You won't ever chase me out of our home again, right? Yet I waited for a long time without getting any response at all. Shun Bayu simply lunged forward, throwing her arms around me in a tight, gentle embrace, with her head buried deep against the nape of my neck. I heard her whisper another apology to me. I'm so sorry. What on earth are you apologizing to me for? This time, I finally received the answer I had been longing for all along. I should have told you how I truly felt a long time ago. Told me what? I love you, Fong Su. As it turned out, the answer had always been this simple all along. Because of true, unconditional love, there is never any need to demand something in return. Our story has officially come to a close here. But right now, I want to share another story, this one about Shun Bayu. Back in the days right after my mother passed away, I constantly felt as though the entire world had completely forgotten about me. Driven by that pain, I secretly ran away from home. I harbored a heavy grudge, waiting for the moment my father discovered I had vanished, thinking he would surely come searching for me everywhere. And after that, he would be forced to feel endless remorse and guilt for neglecting me. Yet my father never came looking for me, not even once, not a single time. Instead, the person who found me hiding was a completely different little boy. He parted the thick layers of leaves, blinking his bright eyes as he asked, "What are you doing hiding out here? Are you playing hide and seek? Do you want to play together with me?" The name of that little boy was Fong Su. Wherever Fong Su went, he always loved dragging me along with him, even proudly telling me, "You look just as pretty as I do, so I suppose I'll reluctantly let you be my friend." It wasn't until that exact moment that I felt the passing days finally burst back into vivid color, right up until one fateful day when I saw another rebellious male student getting into a physical fight with Fong Su. Since Fong Su couldn't win the brawl on his own, out of pure, raw protective instinct, I charged straight into the fray, and very quickly, that punk of a student was beaten down and completely crushed. This was the absolute first time Shun Bayu had ever acted out in such a fierce, protective manner, and it wasn't until she was finally pulled away by others that a delayed realization dawned upon her. So that was how it really was. As it turned out, she had always just wanted to keep Fong Su happy. Ever since they finally got together, there were always people whispering malicious rumors behind my back, claiming he was nothing more than a gold digger. Every single time, I would silently think to myself, what the hell do you idiots know? Fong Su loves money, and it's an absolute honor for that money to be spent by him. Plus, I just happen to be stinking rich. Every single time Fong Su spent even one more penny, I would instantly feel as if he loved me, just a little bit more in return. On New Year's Day, I kissed my beloved boyfriend and made a silent wish deep in my heart. I only hope that for the rest of his life, Fong Su can stay just like this, happy and carefree without ever needing to lift a finger, surrounded by that kind of bliss. That would forever remain the happiest and most fulfilling moment of my entire life.